In subject writing teams, you're bringing together groups of people who, of course, have differing views. And to generalise, there are traditionalists who would say that everything should be in. They want all the detail. I'm a biologist, so if I go into one of these meetings as a biologist, I love biology. I will argue that everything is important in biology. It's the most important subject, and everything should be included. The curriculum should be really broad and cover everything possible. So that's the traditionalist point of view, and the same applies in every subject. There are always people who really believe that their subject is so important you can't miss anything out. On the other hand, and again I'm characterising, but some people are, let's say, more modernists and appreciate the fact that the curriculum cannot include everything. And so they might well say, well, we need a fairly slim curriculum so that the children can enjoy their learning and can learn very deeply. And so the arguments between those two groups of people are carried out over, can take a long time, can get very heated, and there's an awful lot to be considered when carrying out a curriculum review. It's a very, very extensive undertaking, but when you get subject people together, those arguments are probably the most heated that you have at any stage of the process. So what are the criteria that subject teams should use to decide what to include and what not to include? Again, it's not easy. It's not, and there's no pretending that it is. However, a modern curriculum have to be a number of principles behind any modern curriculum, I would suggest. And what is driving countries around the world in the process of carrying out curriculum review is competition in the global economy. It's if I go back a few years, what countries had to do was to focus on school as a place where children learned what they needed to learn for life. And you would finish school and go and get a job, and what you learned in school would serve you for life, and that was fine. We've moved on a lot since then. We now need, young people now need to finish school and to be prepared to carry on learning for the rest of their lives. Lifelong learning. The world is changing far too fast for the old dogma to still apply. Okay? That means that what happens in school has to be about, firstly, encouraging young people to love learning. They have to finish school and think that learning was such good stuff, I'm going to carry on doing it for the rest of my life. Again, going back a few years, the kind of accepted approach was, let's teach them everything they need to know. All of the biology, all of the Portuguese, all of the history, teach them everything. And therefore many people, many adults today have had an education which was not so much an exciting, pleasurable experience, and was more of a route march, a sort of a forced route march through this mass of material that had to be learned. So I've said this myself as a teacher. Should never have, no child should ever hear it, but teachers say things like, I'm sorry about this, but we've got to get through all this, okay? And they carry on and they teach every little detail, and for children, therefore, learning is not an exciting experience that they want more of. It's an experience where when they get to the end of it, they think, thank goodness that's over, right? So what that means about what is in and what is out, we have to have a narrower curriculum than we've had in the past, so that there isn't so much to be got through in time. And what that means for subject teams is deciding what are the absolutely essential elements, what are the principles that children need to learn. If children learn the principles that they need to learn in each subject, and they learn it in a way which means that they enjoy it and they think it's exciting, they'll go on and find the detail for themselves because they'll want to. The opposite is true. If we teach them every last bit of detail, I'm sure everyone who hears me say this will recognise it. Children develop strategies for appearing to listen. Yeah? Let's make the teacher think that I'm listening to what they're saying, but actually there's something else going on in their minds. They're half asleep, they're looking at their phone, So we need an exciting curriculum. That means subject teams really do have to think, what are the essentials that we can fit into the time available? And then, because it's a narrower curriculum than it used to be, because there's not so much packed in, you can have more depth, right? A phrase that sometimes gets used is that an old curriculum is a mile wide and an inch deep. Well, we need to bring in the width, we take out what's not essential, and then the detail becomes part of the depth that children can explore. More able children can explore deeper than others. So there's a key issue then for subject teams. What are the absolute essentials that children need to have a deep understanding of the subject? Not what's every last little bit of detail that we have to cram in. The new curriculum will only succeed if the implementation phase is successful. And I've seen it before where the implementation phase has not been carried out very effectively. So it's got to be right. It has to happen, has to be very well planned. It has to be achievable, has to be phased so that it is achievable. And teachers have to be very well prepared for it, because they're the ones who will do it. What happens in the classroom is what will determine whether the implementation is successful or not. A teacher would, or teachers across the country, would one day receive a package and be told, here is your new curriculum, get on with it. Now that is just not a recipe for success, because that is a curriculum that is being done to the teachers instead of being done with them. So teachers are pivotal to this and need to be involved from an early phase, long before implementation, and involved in the planning and involved in developing the curriculum, consulted about it, so they feel it is theirs. And on day one, when they start to implement the new curriculum, they really feel, here is our new curriculum, and we are going to implement this successfully for the benefit of our children and for the benefit of the nation. So that's an absolutely key principle from the start. When I talk about being achievable, the curriculum should always be phased. Implementation should always be phased, so that you have perhaps, and I'm sure the decision will be made in Brazil about what model should be followed. But for example, a new curriculum could be introduced in grade 1, grade 4, grade 7, so that it then works through. So for the first year it might just be those 3 grades, and then the next year it'll roll on and so on. So it's achievable because you can't have teachers doing everything at once. You can't start to teach children in grade 2 of a curriculum when they haven't had grade 1, so the phasing is really important too. Absolutely essential is that teachers have plenty of training so that they understand what it's all about. Again, that's a stumbling block that some countries come up against. Teachers are not well trained enough and are not ready. They also need to have the resources. Now, if that's textbooks, those textbooks need to have had time to be developed to take account of the new curriculum, so that there is clear alignment. For many teachers, after a while, the new curriculum or the textbook becomes the new curriculum. And as long as the textbooks are aligned with the curriculum, that's fine. But they have to be ready on time. And other teaching and learning resources too have to be there from the start. You can't ask teachers to do the job without the resources.